Give me one in the chat if you can hear me. Give me one in the chat. You hear? I'm doing okay, Ghost MKC. I can't complain. Just a little tired, trying to get motivated. Let me share these slides. You know, I'm old school. I always do the old time slides. Once again, you know how we do it. Give me one in the chat if you have any tech or cybersecurity questions. Just drop them in the chat. We'll get going. Shout out to Ty, my man. Shout out to Cam. Got it. Glad y'all can join me. Once again, if y'all got any questions, just drop them in the chat. I'm going to just talk about risk assessments at a high level from NIST 800. Somebody asked me a couple questions, so I just started to just throw them in some slides and talk about them. So once again, if you got any questions, cybersecurity or tech, drop them in the chat. I felt with the brief fall back of doubt, but I'm yeah, we always have that time. I don't even, yeah. For me, that's just part of the game. It's just hard out here. For me, like again, that's just part of the game. I'm gonna have success and failure, and just kind of keep grinding on where I'm trying to get. I think Cam and study GRC got me thinking more about AI and machine learning. I was trying to put that off, but I think I might need to push that up a little bit. Shout out to Combo Courses. We were chopping it up about is AI going to take over GRC and compliance? So short answer is no, but we could delve into that more if y'all want to. So let's get going. PBO's running out of gas. He's tired. Anybody know NIST? These are the 20 security families. Right there, when you do NIST, I always call that big boy security. So once again, those are 20 security individual families. And you see right there, RA is the risk assessment. It has its own family, its own subfamily. So we're going to touch on that at a high level. Kind of piggyback on what we kind of did on last week with the small businesses NIST. We got that set up. So let's talk about doing a risk assessment on that if we set up a small business. So if you ever look at the NIST documents, I guess I should have cut out the RA. So when you dig in, it has the security family, then the subfamilies, AU4. So you see that at the bottom right there. Controls section prescribes the security or privacy capabilities to be implemented. Security and privacy capabilities are achieved by the activities or action, automated or non-automated, carried out by information systems and organizations. So and we can delve down into that a little more. I talk about the subfamilies and risk assessment, the RA family coming up. Let's talk about the purpose of a risk assessment. I used to do a ton of these when I was at the state, because anytime you bring software in or do a new cloud, you should do a risk assessment, even if it's the big boys. So the purpose of a risk assessment in this 853, focus on identifying, evaluating, prioritizing risk to the organizational operation, asset individuals, and then the individuals and the nation, stemming from operation and use of information system. It's a foundational step in managing cybersecurity risk and privacy. The reason it's there is nation. Most people know I used to do a lot of IRS work. I didn't work for the IRS. I worked for the state doing state taxes, but you have to get information from the IRS, so you have to do their security. So if a nation state attacked the IRS, you couldn't fund a nation. Why? The states collect taxes to pay firefighters, hospitals, those type of things. So they believe if you attack the IRS and the state taxes, right, you couldn't fund the state fund bridges. People wouldn't get paid. A lot of times when people get paid, bad things happen. So that's why they have the nation. So once again, if you stop taxes, people couldn't get paid, and they believe that will be a coordinated attack on the United States. So that's why you see the nation there. Shout out to the AI governance. Yeah, I need to get a little better handle of that. And I am with you, Sarah, on the Dragon today. I am, and it's not even Hump Day yet. Hump Day is tomorrow. So once again, that's where that's the purpose and where I said individuals. When they say nation, most people know NIST 800-53 is a federal compliance used by federal state. So that's why, once again, they say the nation right there. Let's keep rolling. Once again, you got any questions, just drop them in the chat. Oop, that's the wrong slide. Okay, let's see. Yep. The key control families from the RA, we looked at that from the 20 families. Make sure ain't nobody trying to contact me or find me. Once again, risk assessment. Control families in the NIST 800-53 conduct a risk assessment, analyze threats and vulnerabilities, determine the impact of adverse events, and develop response strategies. And if you look at my compliance playlist, I have videos on all those, to be honest. So once again, we're just going to touch on the overview of it. And from a risk assessment, I get a lot of questions on it. I think risk assessment's up there. What's the role of risk? Establish a risk and context governance. Determine the impact levels based on the risk and system type. Evaluate the effectiveness. Right, and a lot of times we call it the BIA, business impact analysis. So the C-suite and those guys get together and says, okay, what's our risk appetite for our organization? Then two is for our systems. Once again, I do a lot of IRS work and federal work. So they tell you if it's high, medium, lower systems. I call them the oversight agency, IRS. CGIS is the FBI, HIP and High Trust is Health and Hospital. All right, so there's a lot of oversight agencies, and they'll tell you this is the categorization of our system. Once again, I do a lot of IRS work, so the impact level will be moderate because it's not life or death. And three, how do you select those controls? Once again, if you look at 53, roll down to the CIS level 1 or level 2, or the STIGs, depending on your technology stack, they'll tell you the controls selected for those particular technology stack. And once again, you as an organization to talk about the scope. Where does those files in? What manual files fall into that scope of work? And four is how do you assess those controls and evaluate the effectiveness of those controls? What's kind of the process? Identifying threats, adversaries, environmental hazards, human error, supply chain. So what I usually do is I usually kind of do the big three. Ransomware, right? Outsider threat and insider threat. So those are kind of what the general ones I do when I do a risk, because those are kind of your most, and phishing, of course. So those are kind of most attacks that's going to happen. Somebody's going to click something or put something inside your software. So when I do a risk assessment, those are kind of three I usually base my assessment on, right? Identifying vulnerabilities and gaps, software, hardware. So if you run Rapid7 scan, LexisNexis scans, they'll tell you things are not set up, or if you're not on the right version, what are those vulnerabilities? Then those two would tell you the likelihood, because when you scan, a lot of times the CVS scans will give you 10 to 1. 10 means it's in a while and it's being attacked. 8, right? So those scores will tell you the likelihood of that you being attacked. Consequent, then assess the impact. So what system is? Once again, if it's our tax collecting system, right, that'll be a high impact, right? Because that's our main business, right? So you would go through and rank your business functions. And that would kind of give you the impact if you had a vulnerability on one of those high-level business functions. They prioritize the risk based on your risk tolerance. We talked about that in uh, mission business impact, right? Once you put all those together, they give you kind of a score. And most of the times, I see companies just kind of touching on a few of those and don't put them all together, right? You have to be a super mature company for that to actually happen from a risk assessment, especially from a software perspective. Let's keep rolling. A lot of times, once again, integration with other families. So I just kind of want to touch on that. Planning incorporates risk into your system security plan from the SSP. CA assessment, guys, what needs more attention in the control assessment. Your PMs help define your enterprise-wide risk strategy. And incident response helps prepare on identified risks, right? So that one slide said, what happened if what's your response strategy, right? That would come from your incident response plan. What's your what's your response, your incident response plan to have what that strategy is. What's your output? What's your output of the risk? Really, a risk assessment report, security and privacy plans. I'm just really starting to see people reach out for privacy plans. That's something new. I didn't see a lot of risk registers. Shout out to Study GRC. They did risk register for about a month. They were building their risk register, ranking their risk, and coming up with their mitigating controls. Input to that control tailoring and continuous monitoring strategy. We're going to look at AWS security and look at the AWS config, how would we monitor our environment to come up with those kind of strategies. And once again, it gives you a score, right? We talk about scores, so the probability of you hacking or how bad is your infrastructure set up. So shout out to AWS. We'll look at that super quick. Compliance expectation, we talked about that too. FISMA's one. I should have put the IRS. CGIS is for court system, so that's FBI. So results must inform the security control selection and authorization process. All right, so there's quite a few federal agencies that has expectation for you to look at your environment once again and make sure it's secure and that they can authorize you to do that type of work. So what does that mean? When you get data from the IRS, you have to do an assessment on your system, send it to them, and they have to validate that your system is set up properly so you can get data from the IRS. Right? FISMA, when I was at DOD, we were working on a project. For it to actually go into production, you have to get certified, right, from FISMA. And they will have, nowadays it's 3PO, but they have their internal auditors that will come out and look at that environment and make sure it was set up and authorized to do that type of work. Let's see if there's any questions in there. Like I said, let's see. Shout out to Jupiter. Glad you can join me, Jupiter Ice. Let's see. Do you ever break down levels than the traditional three-way low, medium, high, or like reasons to have high variant? Oh yeah. IRS actually is. Let me back up. Low, medium, high is usually FISMA from DOD and STIGs. But if you go to IRS, it's critical, significant, low, and something. IRS has 5. So there's a few different ones. So really, I really do more IRS work. So they actually have 5. They actually have critical, significant, and 3 other ones. So, but yeah, I'm traditionally from DOD, and that's there. And if you actually look at, what's up, Justin Williams? I'm glad you can join me. If you actually look at NIST, and we can look at the NIST documentation. They have high, medium, and low. If you look at This 853B at the top, they got low, medium, high. Even if you look at the 853, and we could bring that up, they got low, medium, high. So that's kind of my standard NIST nomenclature. So, but now the IRS has different ones. I think HIPAA, I know HIPAA has 5 different ones too. So it depends really on the work. But for me, once again, I usually do NIST, and this is more low, medium, high. And last week we were talking about a standard 3-tier architecture, web tier, application tier, and database. So a lot of times, once again, they do this, and I have to say, what's the risk of this infrastructure, this setup? So me and the CTO might go back and forth, and it could get ugly, right? So once again, so that's the 3-tier. Here, if you go to performance pack in AWS config, we talked about this. Each control family, depending on your architecture, are you using Elasticsearch? Are you using CloudTrail? Are you using CloudWatch? And if you are, these are the checks you need to be putting on. And sometimes they say, if you're not using CloudTrail enabled, that's a finding. Why? If you get hacked, you need to be able to trace your your APIs to figure out where the bad guys were going. So they tell you need to have CloudTrail enabled, and actually it needs to be going to a different region. So if the bad guys hack you in the current region your infrastructure is, they wouldn't be able to delete your log files because you're actually sending it to a whole different region, right? So they would have to do a lot of work to actually go over there and delete those files. So once again, these are the checks. And we talked about a small infrastructure in AWS. You probably going to have, for each VM, you probably going to have probably 1,000 checks for the infrastructure, because each one of these pieces, application load balancer is going to have checks. Your auto scaling group's going to have checks. You got Bastion host, EC2 is going to have checks. Those are your security groups, right? So each one of those technologies got a NAT gateway, right? Each one of those technologies is going to have checks from AWS, right? Then when you go EC2, that's going to be Windows or Linux. That's going to be about 300 checks by itself. So those checks are going to tell you what risk you're at, right? Once again, like Kim got, if it's high, medium, or low, right? It's going to tell if it's a high, right? Your app's at risk. So a lot of times talking about risk, I usually go bottom up. What does that mean? The scans are going to give me CVE risk numbers. Rapid7 is going to give me risk numbers. Me doing each one of these technologies is going to give me risk numbers. So I can put that all together and come up with the executive report detailing why I think the organization is risky. All right, I'm sure there'll be some CVEs or high, shout out to Kim, those type of risks to the corporation. All right, EC2, right? So if these are some of the checks, Amazon EBS snapshots should not be publicly restorable. VBC DevOps group should not allow inbound and outbound traffic. So once again, all of these are checks on your EC2, which is your VM. It could be Windows or Linux. These checks on the EC2 is talking about nothing about Windows or Linux. It's just talking about how do you have your EC2 set up. All right, so that's why when I say 1,000 checks, right, you can easily get a lot of checks and a lot of findings. I told people the first time I was at DoD, we had 10,000 findings, right? A lot of it's because we had the same findings on multiple EC2s, which is multiple VMs. But depending on how big your infrastructure is, you could come up with a lot of findings, right? Which I wouldn't say is bad, right? There are opportunities. Let me see why I'm here. If I can look up the RS Pub 1075. Once again, if you got any checks, just drop them in the chat. Critical significant. Put them in the chat. I'm trying to see if I could figure it out. Guess I can just bring up the whole doc. Hopefully everybody's having a decent day, getting out there, making things happen. I'm trying to see if I could find. Oh, here it is. I'll share that on the screen. Maybe I'll be going live and freestyling it. Yeah, it'll be okay. It'll be okay. So Cam asked me this. Shout out to Cam. So here's the IRS takes on the high, medium, low. Cam asked me. So once again, this is the IRS Pub 1075 document. This sits on top of NIST 800-53. When you look inside NIST 800-53, it says organizationally defined. This is the IRS that's defining from an organization standpoint what they need, and this is their findings. They go limited, moderate, significant, and critical. I thought it was 5. I think they took one off in the new version. But so yeah, there's different ways to do that, Kim. If you're still in the chat, so these are the IRS. Once again, I'm so used to doing DoD work. They're the 3: low, medium, high, or moderate. Once again, the IRS has 4: limited, potential limited impact vulnerabilities; moderate, same thing. If the vulnerability could be expected to have demonstrable adverse effect on ability to maintain confidentiality and criticality. I'm sorry, confidentiality and integrity. Significant, if the vulnerability could be expected to have severe and imminent adverse effect on ability to maintain confidential. So demonstrable, if I'm stating that right, imminent, then critical is a vulnerability has immediate adverse on the confidential impact. To me, significant when you read it sounds worse than critical, but now shout out to Cam. This is for Cam. So these are the IRS ones from that. Once again, I do I wouldn't say a lot, but majority of my jobs I'm doing some kind of IRS work in there, or used to be doing IRS work. So that's what it. No, you are correct, Justin. I think that is the new standard. That's really for vulnerability scanning, though, right? And findings. This is kind of more when you're doing compliance scans for the IRS, you get this. But you're right, from a vulnerability scan, Rapid7, Nexus vulnerability scan, you're right. I think what you're looking at there is more compliance scans. So you got to kind of put them together, your compliance and your vulnerabilities, and put those together, right? To let's see. I didn't know if you saw value have more than 3, more of curiosity since we're bound with compliance metrics. No, that's true. Cam, since I do kind of federal work, the oversight agency kind of tells you, like DOD wants you to do low, moderate, high. Once again, the IRS. So usually the oversight agency kind of tells me which one of these I'm going to use. If you look at CJIS for the FBI, so for the oversight agency kind of tells me their finding criticality definition of what I'm going to use. Now, sometimes I do smaller companies, but usually if I'm people reaching out, they're usually trying to get work from a federal agency. So once again, whatever that oversight agency is kind of what I'm going to rock with. Now, you said it right there, whatever compliance metric we're assessing risk again. Yeah, so that kind of guides me. A lot of times, though, if I'm doing a smaller company and I start kind of putting them together the way I want, right? A lot of times I use some stuff from the IRS, some stuff from CIS check benchmarks. The differentiation between significant credit makes sense. You want to have 4 I appreciate it. It's all good. So once again, I do a lot of IRS work, so that's kind of why I'm used to kind of seeing it. I thought it used to be 5. What's going on, Big Money Tam? I'm glad you joined me. No, I'm still here. I be peeking in on y'all up. PBO, he tired. I need to start live streaming. I'm surviving out here, Tim. I can't complain. I need to come over there and get some of that Kubernetes from you. That's on my list finally this year. So let's get back on these slideshows. I got so PBO can go to bed. Let's see where we go. Let's see where we at. So once again, from the AWS EC2, these are some of the findings, right? These are some issues, and we're going to look into. And two is we can. We talked about this last week. You can buy Amazon Machine Images (AMI) if you wanted a CIS hardening, or if you want a STIG or Visma. You see right there, it helps with PCI DS or FedRAMP controls in there. What happened? I logged into that. Let's see. Let's see. If you got any questions, put them in the chat. I was looking for something and can't find it. Bummer. Let's see if we can get there real quick. Let's see. See if it's gonna make me log in. Okay, I'm already in there. I'm in there. I'm a little confused, which is normal. Once again, put any questions in the chat. I'm trying to figure out. So yeah, I think the tell everybody's into is, why can't I get to the? Is AI gonna take everybody's job, or what's going on with that? Why can't I get to that? There it is. Okay, let's see. What am I showing? Give me a quick second. I think I logged myself out. Sometimes when you live streaming, it just don't quite go the way you need it, but it's all good. We're gonna struggle streaming and make it. We're gonna struggle streaming making it. Let's see. I'll drop the link if anybody wants to come up. I'm trying to get my MFA on. Yeah, just talking about risk assessment at the high level. Look at the subfamilies for the RA. Sorry about that. I thought I logged into my AWS account, but obviously I did not. Let's drop the link if anybody want to come up. Shout out to Chris Whitlock. I know, Chris. I know. Let's see. It's a bedtime. It's time to hack and build. Bedtime for the old people. Tell. Will the drones of Elon? Oh, I ain't messing with Elon. Shout out will be. Oh yeah, they're already doing that. If you go out on YouTube, they show drones out there. There's companies, Lockheed Martin, and they're already doing that. Started my first. Okay. Looking to grow in zero shut that. What's the most in demand, beginner friendly? I could practice that. I probably would say I would do SOC or IT auditing. SOC or IT auditing. Here, let me drop this down in there. If anybody wants to come up. Shout out to the casual economist. You know I'm always struggle streaming. You ain't walk into it. That's gonna be part of the game. Let's look at this particular security hub real quick. You know I'm always struggle streaming. If I ain't struggling, that's not my stream. So we always good with that casual economist. That's part of the game, man. That is part of the game. Let's see. So we were talking about NIST 800. If you see at the top, that's a NIST 853 score. It says we 86%. So we use this tool to scan. We were looking at those different checks. AWS Security Hub is using AWS config to scan, and it tells you your percentage. Then over here, it tells you, the severity of what you're looking for, right? And that's going to show you your risk. So let's see if we can drill down into that. Remember, we were looking at those EC2s on the slide. It's actually showing you if you pass or fail on those. Right? Shout out to Shango. I dropped the link if anybody want to come up. Shout out to Chris. I know he'd be up super early. He's helping me get my course done. I need to get some energy to finish my course for Dr. Ozier Fire Me. Yeah, I need to, let's see what Bob says. I got 10 months of IT support experience, getting bachelorship. Oh, it sounds like you're doing all the right stuff. Yep, I got a few AWS. I just tell people to pick a cloud. AWS Azure. I'm not as friendly with Google, but they seem to be picking up steam. Shout out to Ben Tech. Facts. Prime time would be PBR. I call it late night. So we were looking at the slides that had those checks on it. So you see that EC2, we were looking at those checks, and that shows you it scans. I think I got one EC2 out there. It's Amazon Linux, which is a fork of Red Hat. So it tells you right there, we were reading through some of the checks, and it shows you right there. Security groups should not allow unrestricted access to the ports with high risk. And I believe that security group, I think I have it open up to the world on 443, right? So they saying it's a high risk, which it is. Maybe it wasn't late. So once again, it goes through and it's gonna look at all those checks. And once again, if you got a small environment, that's gonna probably be a couple thousand checks, right? We were looking at the slides. You got your load balancer, your EC2, your NAT gateway, your S3 bucket, your database, you 3 tiers. So you got your web tier, which could be IIS or Apache or Nginx. Your application, once again, could be IIS or Tomcat. I used to do Java, right? So there's a few JBoss is an old web server, right? So in those 2 tiers, we'll bring those up. It's going to scan each one of those and tell you if you failed it or not, right? So it sees that you're doing an EC2. So now those NIST 800 checks come in effect. Now, if you're trying to use DynamoDB, if it doesn't see it, it's like, oh, it's not an infrastructure. So therefore, I'm not going to scan it. Right? Us as GRC people, right? We would go through these checks and say, these are the findings. Once again, shout out to my man Cam. There's the critical, right? We were talking about the critical. So that's showing you the critical of high, medium, low inside there. So it says these checks are critical, which means if we fail these, the risk of us getting hacked are higher because these are critical attacks. My man Justin was talking about the CSV4. I know I shouldn't do this on the fly, but let's go check that out. I think the CV, it's in the security hub. We're just gonna do it on the fly. Integration. I think that's going to be detective. Is detective or is it guard duty? Let's see if it's guard duty. Yeah. No, I don't want to do that. No, I don't want to stop it. I want to see the findings. Let's see. Is this the CVEs in the guard duty? So these are low, medium, high. These are additional findings using guard duty. And guard duty, I thought was more vulnerability checking. So the cool thing about Security Hub, I need to stop some of those scams. My AWS bill was $50 this month. All right, so shout out to Guard to Security Hub integrations. Once again, we linked those different. We got Audit Manager linked, Detective, make it easy to analyze and investigate, quickly identify the root cause. Guard duty threat detection that continuously monitor malicious or unauthorized behavior. I think so. You have a ton of things you can scan. I think it's inspector security assessment. So I think that's inspector. Trying to find the CV scores. And I think this is what my man was talking about. Let's see if we can see that. So I think, was that Justin? Once again, I dropped the link if anybody wants to come up. Who's talking about the CVE score? PBO getting late night. So those are the CVE score, which are there. So that's AWS's CV checker, which so you see it right there, CVE 2025. I wonder if this is 4 though, because I think it's still on 3. I don't think they upgraded yet. But if you want to do it once again high, so if we drill down in there, PBO needs to go in his environment, clean them up. Thread creation while directory handles open, it's high, it's active. So I would probably want to go patch it. Remediation is available. Please refer to the fixed version and the vulnerability detail. So it tells you the vulnerability detail from the CVE. So once again, that's AWS's version of, I call it Rapids. Oh, there it is. My man Justin Williams was talking about CVEs. That's the AWS module for that. So Security Hub gives you a ton of resources. So you can do the compliance check, the threat modeling, and the CV. I think this is 3.0, the CVS check. You put all those together using Audit Manager to come up with the risk score for your organization, right? If you got a bunch of highs here, a bunch of highs compliance, a bunch of highs in threat modeling, your company's in trouble, right? So that's kind of it. Prime time, maybe it wasn't. Pretty sure. Let's see. There's the link if anybody wants to come up. I understand my man Chris is tired. He works. He'd be up at 4 a.m. PBO would be up early, but he go back to bed. So it's time in the third person. Shout out to my LinkedIn people. All these, I use AWS config. Which scan are you talking about? For me, from this, there's a compliance scan, a threat modeling scan, and a CVE scan. Usually I'm doing compliance scans. This is Security Hub inside AWS. I usually do AWS config, facts, which is here, because I'm usually doing more compliance work. I always put CVE. That's usually more it's security operations work. So I'm usually here. Is that Security Hub? Yep. Which is the compliance scans here. So we were talking about NIST. So I'm usually using this tool more. It tells you you got an 86% score, 250 pass, 42 fails, 3 criticals. This is AWS config being sucked into Security Hub. So since I do more GRC work, I'm usually more in compliance scanning. But as a GRC person, shout out to my man was talking about the CVE. I need to get those scores because that's going to tell me Shout out to Justin Williams, the risk of our organization. But high level, I'm usually in AWS config, calling that from Security Hub, looking at the compliance scans. Once again, I do a lot of federal work, reporting to the IRS. I used to report to DOD, those CMC, a little work in there. So I'm usually reporting to federal requirements, and a lot of those requirements are based on top of this 800-53R5. So once again, put any year up, no problem. You can always reach out to me on LinkedIn if you had any specific questions. I usually check my email every couple days. I need to get better at that. Shout out to me. I'll be struggling. AWS config. Yep. So if you Google AWS config, it talks about performance packs, different federal compliance. Security Hub is kind of like the one pane of glass. Security Hub, I can call AWS config. I can call AWS Detective that we were looking at, and those different security products, and put them in one pane of glass, which is AWS Security Hub. I appreciate you, Chris. So that's me. That's my government name. Shout out to me. That's my government name. If you want to find me, I'm easily found. Or I'm usually in Chris's Discord. Shout out to. So I'm usually once again in Chris. Drop your channel on there, Chris. I'm usually hanging out with those guys, causing problems. I feel like they were picking on me. They sicked Black Hills on me last week. I guess I'm gonna have to respect the hallucinations, Chris. I have to put some respect on it. Once again, drop any other questions inside the chat. We'll get to them. What's up? What's up? Glad you can make it. You're kind of late, Kevin. PBO about to go to bed. Shout out. I'll be chatting with him on LinkedIn. Probably do some LinkedIn special.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. What's going on, man?
Not much, man. I'm just watching and I'm just bouncing between podcasts. But I was watching Cyber Bulks.
Okay.
I don't know if you're familiar with his channel. It's a little cyber kid. So it actually got a platform right here. Hold up, this just my computer's loading. I'll drop it in the thing.
Okay.
Where you could do like hands-on, but you have to buy the lab. It's pretty much cheap. You could, it's like you're doing like SOC and cyber, analysts. Like you take a case, like whatever happened, like ransomware, you're actually solving the case and stuff. How it happened, you're studying your adversary. So yeah, I'm just waiting for this thing to load so I can drop it in. So
yeah, there's a couple of them out there pretty good. Actually, AWS, if you go to their training, they got a lot of free training out there that's pretty good.
It's called a DFR report. DFIR report. So yeah, I'm just waiting for this thing to load up.
Yeah, I stay out of that DFI world, but I'm with you.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know what your reservation on is. So.
I always worry because they're tracking down hackers. So if you miss it, that means the bad guy's still in your organization. And I always feel like they would personally sue me. PBO be overreacting. So I don't want none of that smoke. I'm compliance. No. I tell you, your compliance out. If you hack, you need to get your red team on that.
Oh yeah.
So that's my reservation of it.
But it's good to know it because
I know it at a high level, but yeah, I'm not.
Yeah, because it's a cross-functional. It's like at least you know, like, hey, this is what needs to happen right here.
Yeah. I not talk about that from compliance because we actually handle the communications, the training. A lot of times, most people outsource that type of work. Very few people have that type of talent on staff.
And speaking of which, I did have a phone interview, so I had to follow up with her. So you know my thing. I come from compliance, so I read the resume. I'm like, because a lot of people like recruit. I was talking to a recruiter. Like a lot of times, like recruiters don't understand from compliance, like vulnerability or is cyber analysis. They're all one and the same. We could do the same thing. No, it's just okay. We're going on Splunking and we're just tracking. It's all one and the same. And when you get one of those recruiters that don't know what they're talking about, it's just like you
Most
know,
of them don't know what they're talking
Hey, oh,
about.
oh, dude. So, she needed to get some information from me, and she's like, "Well, I need your birthday," and I was like, "Okay." Oh, well, you need my PII. She's like, "Well, technically, your birthday isn't PII per DoD." I was like, "Oh, well, I didn't even want to go rebuttal on that one," but I was like, "Okay."
No. I'm
I
like,
was like,
okay, you wrong, but okay.
No, I didn't even want to say it. I was like, you know
No,
what? I just
I
rolled
know.
my eyes. I was like, okay, all right.
Mm. Shout out to DOD, man.
Yeah, yeah. Hold up. Let me see if I can go on LinkedIn and drop it in. But I'm just listening in the background.
No, that's cool. But yeah, so from a compliance standpoint, he's correct. A lot of times, especially from a smaller company, those things overlap. I work for large companies, so compliance, we ain't touching DFR. We're not touching Splunk. We're touching it for reports, but we're not setting it up. We're not monitoring from a tax standpoint. We're monitoring to make sure from a compliance standpoint, are they logging the things they should be logging? Right. And I do that a lot with SIMs because a lot of people are like, we got a SIM, we logging. What are you logging? Why are you logging it? Right. So the cool thing about CIS checks, IRS Pub 1075 and STIGs, they say if your database is X, these are the things you should be logging. Password logouts, passwords invalid, coming from your VPT and your subnet. If you're running Palo Alto, if you're running Cisco, if you in the cloud and Amazon VPCs, these are the things you need to be logging from your network. So if you get hacked, they can track it. And from a compliance standpoint, these are the things you need to be once again logging. If you're not logging those and they find out they couldn't track it because you wasn't logging the proper things, that will be a big fine, right? So that's kind of the role compliance plays inside of a SIM and a SOC, right? What are you logging and are you protecting your SOC correctly? Are you using encryption? Are you encryption at rest? Are you doing encryption in memory? Right. Some of the bigger databases in OS now, you can do encryption in memory. It decrypts it from the one line and recrypts it. So if a bad guy goes into your memory and does a dump, right, they wouldn't be able to read that data because that data was encrypted. I'm like, if they're that close, they probably got your keys though, right? But that's a different conversation, right? So from a compliance standpoint, what are you checking from a SIM? What are you checking from logging? What are you checking from? We were looking at the 3-tier apps, web, application, and database. What are you logging from them? Then from a security checks, what are you looking for in those particular, those infrastructure things, right? And two, which I always kind of shrug off, availability. Can you roll over to a different DR site? If you're in the cloud, can you roll over to a different region? RTO and RPO, how much data you're going to lose from the database and how quickly you need to be up and run. A lot of people's like, I want to be up in 30 seconds. That's going to cost you some money, right? If you want to spin up in another region in 30 seconds, right, and start doing work, it can be done, right? A lot of that comes with a cost. And once again, that's coming from a compliance standpoint and a GRC standpoint. So a lot of times I think we be melding those two together, right? GRC, SecOps, DevSecOps, security operations, right? IAM, right? People start merging it all together. And once again, so once again from
Yeah, I dropped a report from a Confluence. I'm still waiting for it to load. I don't know what's going on with their web server though. But it's the report from actually gives a good breakdown. I don't want to get off topic of your
no,
tourism
go ahead.
presentation. Gives a good topic, like good write up of like it's on Confluence or Confluence how
Mm-hmm.
this ransomware and the steps and the ladder, like the basic,
Mm-hmm.
like this play by play would happen. You know, the initial actions, the execution.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so yeah, I don't know if you got it in the chat though.
I did. I posted it. I'm
Okay,
highlighting it right now. No, I got
yeah.
it. I put it out there. So my man put it out there for you. But yeah, that's the DFIR. I kind of stay away from that.
Well,
More so,
tell me, can you give me just an overview of what it's about or something? I'm just now getting knowledge on it.
I I think you. I mean, I think you talked about it, right? I just don't do a lot of it. Like, I just don't bring it up a lot. Here, let me. I just gonna, like I said, I was just gonna Google it real quick and just kind of give a quick. Like I said, I don't do a lot of it at all. Like for me, that's security operations. From a compliance standpoint, I talk about DFR. There's a lot of videos out there. I think I did a video on it actually. It's just something I just don't do a lot of. I don't even really talk about it a lot, to be honest. I just kind of stay in my lane. For me, I just got to stay in my lane. Shout out to Person Center
No
Cyber.
worries.
I appreciate you for joining me. Definitely go check out her channel. She's doing great things. Policy. She does a lot more than that. Uh, Fundamental foundations. Um, I write very mundane policy. She has a great concept of very educational policy writing, which I suck at. So I usually take some stuff out of ChatGPT and smooth it out. So now, but shout out to her. So I haven't seen you in a while, her and the doctor. But once again, I'm glad she joined me. We kind of started on YouTube, I think, kind of around the same time, years and years ago. So I'm just still out here trying to make it. Once again, put that in the chat. Anybody got any questions? Drop them in there. But yeah, if you see on the screen, we talking about that NIST compliance. I think I'm gonna have to do a live stream on the DFIR. Like I said, I don't even do enough to talk about it. To be honest, I kind of stay in my lane at a high level, though. From a GRC perspective, shout out to Chris. He did a risk register. I did a threat model off his risk register. So I think I did account takeover. So if that would happen, then that DFR would come in, chain, how they taking over, how do they, if they drop malware, how do that run through your organization? How do you break that chain, right, and quarantine if it's malware, viruses, and that type? Like I said, I kind of stay out of that realm. But from a GRC perspective, once again, the risk register, I did a threat modeling out from account takeover from that. Then in account takeover, I went, these are the things could happen. These are different. I think I showed 10 ways to do account takeover in a video. Then part of that would, if it would actually happen, your MSP or your internal red team would do that. Take the DFI over and quarantine it, track it down, make sure it was closed, do the write up of it. I always just get paranoid that if you miss something and that they were still in your organization. I work for bigger companies. We would sue that company if they told us it was quarantine and it wasn't. So I just never really wanted to get in that realm. Then two, I never seen that talent on site a lot. We always outsourced it. Now I have enough talent to say I saw it. It's on there. I can go through the MITRE and says this look like the TTP. We talked about Splunk, OpenStash, Elcache. Your SIM can kind of track that down and make say that attacks happening there in your organization. But to actually find and quarantine them and kick them out, from a DFI perspective, that's just something I've never thought about or actually wanted to do. What's your thoughts on that, Juniper? You there? Well, I think Jupiter stepped out. Give me a one in the chat if you can hear me. Let's see. I don't know. Can you hear me, Jupiter? You still there? Okay. Thank you, Kim Gown. I know. But yeah, so that's kind of it at a high level. I'll stay on a little longer and see if anybody got any questions. I appreciate you, Tom. PBL about to jump in the bed because the Pacers lost yesterday.
Yeah, I'm jumping off, man. Good evening.
I appreciate you. Shout out to NC Worker. I ain't seen him in a minute. Shout out to Jerry. Man, I appreciate you. So I'm gonna hang out. I'll drop the link if anybody wants to come up, but just gonna kind of wrap it up. Hang out for any questions. Shout out to my LinkedIn users because I was gonna do. Somebody asked me about ageism. I was gonna do ageism and reverse ageism. So I think I'm gonna do that probably on a lunchtime learn. I need to see what Chris, see which lunchtime learns they're doing. I think he's doing a Friday. I might try to do it on a Thursday. Oh, shout out to Black Hills. Let's see. Oh, yeah, in Baltimore line. Oh, that is cool. I haven't been to a lot of live events. Now, shout out to them. They actually, my man Chris actually interviewed Kelly from Black Hills. Let me know if I'm saying that right, Chris, if you're still on. You're probably in the bed. He interviewed Kelly from, we had a good discussion on AI governance. So shout out to Black Hills. She disagreed with PBO. So we might have to expand on that a little bit. I appreciate you, Jerry. Yeah, just check me out on the replay. I appreciate you. Yeah, facts, man. I've been tired. I've been trying to walk and get a little better shape. That's not helping my tiredness either. So, but once again, I would appreciate everybody for joining us. This is usually my normal date, even though I might need to push it up. My brother Chris be tired. So definitely go check out Study GRC. I'm usually hanging out with those guys, causing problems. So I'm usually over there with those guys. They go, oh, let's see Kim guy. I know he's gonna catch that. Reverse racism. No, I coined that term actually a couple of days ago. I don't know if it's gonna catch on. And you will like this, Cal. I think a lot of people like this. I'm not a boomer, but I'm close. I think boomers are blocking people in the cybersecurity because they think they're too young. I've actually had my boss tell me that he wants people, older. I'm like, dude, we going to train them anyway, right? So I think that's where you get reverse ageism. I think a lot of boomers want you to have 10 years. I mean, you see that now. You see entry-level jobs. People want 3 years of experience for entry-level jobs, right? So I'm calling that reverse ageism. Let me know if you like that term, Kim. Got it. I'm trying to coin that. I might put that on a shirt. So I'm calling that reverse ageism, and I think boomers want people with so much experience they're blocking young people. And I talked to Combo Courses. He's the same way. There's only a couple of GRCs, and I've been in this game for 30 years. We didn't have any young people on there. When I left the state, I co-signed for a young guy to get on the team. Before that, I think I was the youngest guy on our team at 42. We had 42. So I think I'm calling that reverse ageism, man. So I think we're black. I like if you have a mortgage, yeah, facts. So I think, and I shout out to the boomers. I think they're past them, but I think, especially in cyber security, because some people ask me, do you think AI is going to take out GRC and cybersecurity? I said, no, we're a million people short because we're not letting anybody in the industry. If you Google it, they say it's 750,000 short or a million short. I've seen 1.2 million by Price Waterhouse in a report. So AI is just going to take up the slack, right? Because we're not letting any young people in. So I'm calling that that's cool. Drop that in the if you don't mind, drop that in between me and you and the LinkedIn. I'll jump in there one day. But I can give you I got a couple videos on ageism. Every year I do one on ageism. And I got a weird, I wouldn't say a weird, yeah, you know me. I have strange take on it on ageism. Um, so, but yeah, so I'm calling it reverse ageism. I might do a lunch and learn on that, and I think, and I've been trying to work on that as I get older about letting younger people in cybersecurity, or at least trying to mentor them and help them in. Right, um, so that's kind of one of my things that I've been trying to work on. Right, I think people have been interviewing for NIST jobs and FISMA jobs and IRS jobs. So I try to help people get those jobs. People ask me questions. I got a ton of video on those. That's a good take on it. I think kind of like if you look at AWS Security Hub, right? It does a lot of those scans like cybersecurity. So I think that mundane part is kind of already been taken out for scans, right? And they tell you what you should do to fix those scans. I think the next level that AI might help with is I couldn't fix this type of finding because it breaks my organization, but these are my compensating controls for that particular finding. Right. So I've been kind of playing around with AWS Bedrock to figure out if a chatbot could help you with compensating controls, because I think that's the non-mundane part, right? That you have to kind of be in the gray area. But some of those stuff are, it's pretty standard, right? If you can do FIPS 140-2 encryption, because your product didn't have, because it was expensive. If you were doing AES 256 with MFA, and if that particular website was internal and you had some static IPs that came to there, right? Those would be standard compensating controls if you can do FIPS type encryption, right? And I think those would be there. So I think that's the kind of stuff AI and machine learning, I think, is the next level of trying to do a chatbot to help you with that. A lot of people reach out to me and ask me those type of questions, right? So, Kim, starting it with the boomers. Let's see, I wonder if boomers would be more comfortable with AI assistant. Now that's a good question. I hang out with. I don't think they like either. My guy, though, who's my mentor, he wouldn't like either one of those. He wouldn't like either one of them. But I remember when I was young and he was hazing me. All right, he's just got to get comfortable, and once he trains you, right, I think he gets more comfortable. I think people are getting more comfortable with AI. To be honest, the sad part is AI is going to take out the 24-year-olds. That's the that's the crazy part. Because if you look, it says AI is going to take out 30% of the entry level jobs. Right. So if AI takes out the entry level, how does the 24 get from entry to medium to moderate? Not even a senior, but how you get from entry to non-entry, right? So that's kind of the thought pattern behind there. I don't worry about that, because I think if you lab enough, you can lab your way over the entry part, all right, and get to moderate. But I don't know. That's kind of my thoughts on it. Yeah, that's kind of, yeah, it's taking out the bottom two. Yeah, that's the kind of the weird part about that. So I mean, so if you got skills, you're gonna be okay, because the entry ain't gonna never be able to get up the ladder. So how do you skip if there's no entry level jobs, which they said it's not really now? A lot of people said cybersecurity is not entry level to begin with. So that's one of the debates and one of the discussions for that. So what would that look like, and how would that work? So keep throwing the questions in there. Like I said, I'm gonna shut it on down, but throw a couple more questions in there. So yeah, that's going to be the interesting part from GRC. I think everybody know I'm an AWS guy. AWS is adding a ton of services. Then we throw their AI bedrock on top of that, which is their AI generative. Um, like I said, what's the next level of that, and what would that look like? Partially agree with Labbing. Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. Oh, you right, facts. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna start working on that. AI has their AI practitioner and their associate machine learning. I probably study for both of those coming up next, to help me get into that AI pattern and just start labbing on it. You said, I agree with you. Bummers don't really like labs. I think your labs, you have to build a portfolio with your lab so you can kind of show it like it's a job. But I don't know. It's just kind of my thought at a high level on that time. I don't have any anecdotal evidence that that's gonna work. Once again, I'm out. PBO about to jump in the bed real quick. I want to appreciate everybody joining me. Shout out to my man Kev here. Let me show you my government name on LinkedIn. You need to reach out to me. You need a 15-minute conversation. And two, if sometimes it takes me a minute to get back with you, just ping me, man. I'm easily found. That's me right there. My government name on LinkedIn. Shout out to my man Kevin. We definitely linked on LinkedIn. I'm trying to get my LinkedIn links up to 5,000 by the end of the year. I think I got about 3,500. So that's kind of one of my goals from a social media perspective. I appreciate you, Ken. Okay. I have to look at those. Like I said, I'm kind of my AWS kick, so I kind of just kind of stay in my AWS infrastructure because um, that's my cloud of choice. But yeah, those are definitely. I Soccer's always on top of their game, so that's definitely one of the premier certs in anything. So I definitely check those two out. Once I always trying to start on AWS before pivoting into something else. Once again, I want to thank everybody for joining me. Everybody have a good hump day tomorrow. I got to get some energy. PBO about to jump in the bed. Once again, if you need me, reach out to me on LinkedIn, or if you go to my YouTube channel, there's an about page. My email's on there. ProfessorBlackOps@gmail.com. Give me a couple hours to get back to you. I need to go check my email. PBO is failing in that area. Once again, I want to appreciate everybody for joining me. I'm out. You all good. Reach out to me. I'm out. Everybody have a good hump day tomorrow. Let's keep it going. If you're in the industry trying to get in the industry, keep grinding. This is just a bad time to, to try to get in the game. Don't give up. I think 30% of the people are going to drop out of cybersecurity just because it's in a recession, and it's just I'm shout out. It gets disheartening. People putting in 300-400 resumes and getting a couple callbacks. Half of the jobs out there are already filled. Probably a tenth of those are ghost jobs. But once again, keep grinding, keep your head up. If there's anything I can do for you that's not too crazy, just reach out to me. I do what I can do. A lot of times people want to pick my brain, which is always cool. I don't know how much brain I got left, but I'll definitely do that for you. I'm out. Everybody have a good night, and let's get it tomorrow.